we pride ourselves on bringing people together for fellowship, over a beer, over a cocktail, over a mocktail, whatever it may be. We want to provide a space that's welcoming and that brings people together.
Welcome back to Brew Talks. I'm Steve Stroud, President and CEO of Roswell, Inc. We're your economic development organization in the city of Roswell.
And I'm Andy Williams, President and CEO of Visit Roswell, the official destination marketing organization. Big thanks to Wellstar, North Fulton Hospital for sponsoring our Roswell Brew Talks. Always great to have them, and I appreciate their support. And two of our favorite guests on today, individuals that we work very closely with, have for a number of years, and we're going to talk about a big upcoming celebration and anniversary. Time is flying by when you really think about it. It is insane to think what we're about to talk about here. But we have Pat Raines with Gate City Brewing Company, Brian Borngesser with Gate City Brewing Company. Gate City's just one of them, too. These guys are always doing something, always, kind of creating new ideas and really taking great risks that are paying off and doing a great service to the community. So, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks
Happy
for
to be
having
here.
us,
Thank
guys.
you.
It is great to see you guys, man. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. April 17th?
April 17th will be the kickoff. It'll be First Alive in Roswell, which has become, one of our favorite events that we sponsor. And it'll be the kickoff to the 10-year anniversary. So we are looking forward to that. Yeah. It's going to be a great weekend for us.
Well, I want to walk it back. We're going to go into a number of different things. We'll talk about artillery room. We'll talk about blended. But we were having some casual conversation about the history of Gate City and what it was previous to you all coming on board and making it what it is today. And it's blowing my mind just hearing some of these stories. And, I want to make sure the listeners and the viewers get a chance to kind of experience that and live that a little bit through this podcast. So you guys inherit the facility, right, and work through all of that. Walk us through what that was before you took over and what that process was like to get it into a brewery.
Yeah. So
a lot of hazmat suits.
Yeah. I used to drive by that place on my way to my corporate job every day, and I would look at it, and I remember telling Steve, man, that would make a really great brewery. And so we worked hard to get that space, and we're fortunate enough to come into it. But with that came a lot of hard work. So upstairs had been the transmission shop for 52 years, I believe. And downstairs was a European mechanic who had been there for 32 years. So it was in pretty rough shape when we got in, to say the least. So the first thing we did was really just get to work. And over the first 6 to 8 months, it was a lot of scrubbing, a lot of cleaning, and a lot of tearing stuff out to kind of rebuild.
Yeah.
And all of this was done. Pat and I still had our normal jobs, our corporate jobs. And so this was done on nights, weekends. We'd enlist our buddies to come up and help out. We're like, who wants to drive the forklift and rip some stuff out? It was really a community event to kind of get that space ready to go.
And a lot of people don't realize breweries were not what they are today, right?
No.
Because you guys started out, you started out on the top side.
You're one of the leaders, really.
The laws actually, the timing on everything really worked out in our favor.
Right.
Like when we took that top spot, we took it with the intention and with the ability to be able to take the lower spot once the gentleman that was down there, his lease was up. Mm-hmm. So we had that worked out with our landlord. And when we first opened up, it was still just the ticket system. So you couldn't run a tap room. You couldn't sell pints over the bar. It was $15, get your pint glass, your 6-ounce pours.
That's right. Yep.
And that's it. Yep. And so that's kind of how we cut our teeth. And then on our 1-year anniversary, they passed the law, SB 65, 6585, where you could then operate like a tap room. And we had already taken the downstairs spot and had been working on the build out.
Sweet.
And so right about the time we had opened up, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that law went into effect, and we could start selling pints.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer.
That was a game changer. And really also, even when we were starting out, being the first brewery coming into Roswell, there really weren't any laws on the books at all related to brewing. And so we had to work really closely with Steve and the government at the time, city council, to really help kind of draft the initial brewery regulations for the city. And then also at that time, we were lobbying pretty heavy to be able to have
Oh,
a
yeah.
tap room and do retail sales. And so, like to Brian's point, all of that kind of came to a culmination of really good timing and kind of the launch of that, what we know as the tap room.
It
today.
was, and it was interesting because we had taken mayor and council and most of our board to Asheville. And I'll never forget, our executive committee was there, and we were walking around, and we're walking out of Wicked Weed, probably at a undesirable hour of the night, and truly, our mayor at the time looked at me and said, "When are we going to get one of these on Canton Street?" And I'm like, "Well, hang on."
Yeah, the timing was insane. 'Cause we would sit down with Mayor Wood, and before we were even kicking around numbers or anything,
Yeah.
like because we both live in Roswell,
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
and I remember sitting down with him and just saying, "Is this something that you guys would even allow to happen?"
Right.
Because it was going to take all that work to get all the laws changed and to get some of the zoning changes put in place just to be able to operate one. And we didn't want to get into it if we knew like it's
Right,
going
it
to hit a
couldn't
brick
happen.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Makes
and
sense.
at that time, like Georgia just didn't have a lot of breweries, so a lot
Right.
of it was just explaining even what a craft
people
brewery
do.
Yeah,
tap
I mean,
room
people were hardly
was.
drinking IPAs. It was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what does
is
it
what is
mean
it
to do
you guys
that,
are wanting
right?
to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of it was just telling people, well, we make this product here,
Right.
and we want you to be able to come try it. You know, any other manufacturer is able to sample their goods or sell their goods. You know, and at the time, brewing industry was a little different. So a lot of it was communicating what was going on and educating the public as to why we thought the laws should change and what the effects of that would be.
Yeah.
And just kind of letting people know what breweries were.
Right.
That's right.
At that
That's right.
time, they were all in industrial spaces. They were all large manufacturing because that's how you had to
hide
be to succeed.
Yeah, sure.
That's all that you could afford.
Really?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
when you couldn't
Square
generate
footage.
taproom dollars,
That's
like,
right.
you
Yeah.
know, it's tough to hit
Not like
margins.
bar.
Well,
And-
that leads into another good question too. You know, because we're now at 4 breweries, right?
Yep.
2 brew pubs. You know,
Yep.
obviously with Variant and Gate City, are more traditional brewery styles with tap rooms. You guys all work cohesively together, which is fantastic, but all distinctively different, I would say. And one of the things that you guys have done very well is kind of always been thinking about, okay, what is that next iteration of what we're doing? And you started distilling spirits, you know, and then now you've got blended. You've got the artillery room, which is connected to the same point of sale system, which is incredible because, you know, on the compound, as you guys call it, you can grab a beer at Gate City and then walk up to the patio at artillery room. Everything's connected. You could close out your Gate City beer at artillery room. So walk through what's going through your mind to be able to constantly really be thinking about what that next evolution is.
Yeah, some of it's just my nature, our nature, to kind of try and be on the cutting edge of what's going on. Some of it, for me, comes from, you know, I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and I grew up in what was at the time the microbrew capital of the world.
Sure.
100%. Yep.
I didn't really appreciate it as much as I should have at the time, but I was able to see kind of a future of what brewing places could be before I came here. And so when I moved to Georgia in 2005, there was only 3 brewing companies in the state of Georgia. And so for me in Oregon, there was over 150.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what kind of got me started, was figuring out how to find the types of beer that I liked, how to find a good craft beer. And that's kind of what got it all going. And then we're always looking forward. So like we said, we got in at a time where the groundswell was kind of building, and we were able to be one of the first kind of hybrid breweries, if you will, to be in a high traffic downtown location. There was really none at the time.
Sure.
And so with the space that we got, we were able to kind of build that hybrid model of, yes, we know we have to produce a lot of product, but we also want to be able to have that retail side of it.
Sure.
And we got really lucky too with the spot that we're in and the people that own it. So
Right.
all of our locations
landlord.
are owned by the same guy.
Yeah, makes it a lot
Which
easier,
helps.
doesn't it?
So, you know, when we moved into it, Pat and I saw the vision. I mean, that little corner, there had so much potential. And it was just, I mean, the back of that building, those pictures are insane to see
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was all just chewed up gravel, restaurant parking back there for employees, dumpsters.
Piled up cars.
It was
Piled up
nasty.
cars.
Yeah.
Cars with no tires.
Yep.
And so we saw the potential. And as the opportunities came about, a lot of it was kind of like jump before you look on some
Right.
of it. It's like, okay, well, Jimmy, our landlord's going to offer this to us.
We're gonna
There's
jump
no
on
way we can say no to this.
Right.
What can we do?
Figure it
We've
out
had
after
all
the
these
fact.
plans, we've had all these ideas. Now we're actually going to get the opportunity to make this happen. And that was super exciting.
Yeah.
The other thing that we always say with our businesses is that you have to be willing to change your plan when things come up, right?
Sure.
Right.
If
Oh,
you
yeah.
are so stuck in your plan that you can't adjust and change, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to stay at the cutting edge. So we're always kind of looking at things to come up. The back house kind of came about because we started getting all kinds of private event inquiries,
That's right.
and we didn't have anywhere to put
That's
people
right.
at the time.
That's right.
And so, we sat down and talked, and we're like, man, I mean, it would be nice to bring these people in. We don't have the space. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Jimmy said, hey, this
Hey,
guy's
it's open.
moving out.
Yeah.
And what do you guys think? And we're like,
And that was a
okay.
storage place.
That was
I mean,
storage.
It was all
Yeah.
basically a storage shed for one of the art
Overflow.
dealers.
Yep. For the
And
Which is
before that,
crazy.
it's where Jimmy used to store his little antique cars.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And you think about it, what you guys are, really saying without just coming out and saying it, you're entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs that are successful, business people that are successful, have to have that entrepreneurial spirit and adventure and take the risk. Because you took a risk from the get-go, right?
Well, I do think that the Pat and I meeting was a huge blessing.
It was.
And we met through, I know you all know
Rotary.
the story. We met through the Rotary Club over, chicken lunches,
Yep.
and we were two of the youngest people in there.
100%.
And he and I just started talking about,
Because I was youngest.
we were just talking about him homebrewing, me homebrewing, and just, what are you doing? Hey, I've got this. And just the way that conversation happened
Amazing.
was so organic. And to be able to have that same drive and goal of wanting to do something on your own and understanding the work that you have to put into it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we get kind of lucky.
And
on
I
that.
go back to
after,
the fact, go back to the Rotary thing for 2 seconds. It's just having that sense of community, right?
Yep.
Having that place where you can meet somebody. I remember sponsoring you in Rotary. Like, come on, you got to be the youngest one because it's not me anymore. And that's when McCoy and I used to do the drill. Like, we go out here and stand on Canton Street and see who we're going to bring in. But we every once in a while found a real winner. So,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, what you find with that, and I'm just joking on that, of course, is that, bringing you guys together, getting people together, having that opportunity, and taking what you both were very successful in your professional lives, and now you've taken it to another profession, right? And you use those same skill sets that
Yeah.
you learned in corporate, and you're using those with your natural, God-given, I call it entrepreneurial, because you've got to be able to do that. I mean, it's not easy.
So imagine you're tuning into this the first time. You've never been to Roswell before. Maybe this is going to influence a visit. Break down the difference between Gate City, Artillery Room,
Yeah.
and Blended Spirits.
Excellent. Yeah. So Gate City, the original brewing company, first company started up. We started just in the upstairs. Basically, we're manufacturing all the craft beer, sell it out into distribution in the state of Georgia. The downstairs level is our tap room. Big garage doors open up. It kind of brings in the community together, if you will. That was one of our goals, was to provide a place for people to come together and just be community. And then in year 5, we were able to get our distilling permit. So we, under the same name, Gate City Brewing Company, now became a brewery and a distillery. So we were able to distill products and serve alcohol out of both the tap rooms.
Got it.
That was the beginning. We did that when we were in the still without the artillery room building, but we saw the opportunity to provide people who weren't into beer, or people who had friends that weren't into beer, to come and be a part of the community by adding the spirits, and also continuing to add mocktails and that.
Big.
And as we developed that, again, that opportunity presented itself. It was always kind of part of our goal to
Sure,
get
yeah.
one of those other buildings to tie in the back lot.
Canton Street frontage, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, that was huge.
And again, another situation where it just so happened
Timing.
Jimmy had it, and like
Yeah.
the art gallery is moving out, and they're like, "What do you want it?"
Yeah.
And that, if you don't mind me interrupting, that was a big part for us to be able to get the Canton Street frontage, to build the deck off the back, to tie everything into each other, which allows us to run those POS systems together, so you can have a tab over the entire compound.
Amazing.
But the timing on that was terrible.
Yeah.
We took it and started the build out right before COVID.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I do too.
that was add on how scary everything else was.
right.
We sat down a couple times and like I literally thought that building out that artillery room was going to put us out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very difficult time.
That was very hard.
We
A lot
were
of stress there.
A lot
we
of
were
work
in the
it.
midst of it, and all of a sudden you got people working, and then the next day, no one
Yeah.
can
Shows up.
No one can work. No one can even go out.
Yeah.
No one shows up, and then you guys know. Landlords aren't waiting for you to necessarily get
No.
finished. They're not real
No.
worried about who shows up and does the work. They want the rent check
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yep.
And the bank wants to call the loan, they're going to call the loan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're
that's
like,
right.
oh God,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
not good.
So yeah, I mean those were some very difficult times.
Sleepless nights, we
Oh
call
yeah, a lot of sleepless nights during that time. But I always tell people that I wouldn't have it any other way because it forced us to do things differently than we normally would have.
Right.
We got into that build. We were into demo, and the building almost collapsed.
Did it?
Right.
Yeah.
Had to be reinforced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, we had
No.
a plan to go in, turn it around quick, and get it open fast, right? Like everybody who's doing a build out, and you realize that usually doesn't happen. But we got into it, and it changed the project 4x. Overnight. We're going into an architect to have to design it.
Yeah.
We're having to totally change plans and build it out and reinforce the roof.
Totally different.
But
Aesthetically,
at the end
it
of the
looks
day,
great now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's what caused the final look and
Yes.
to give us all of that. And for us even to learn the history of it,
Right.
Yeah.
we were like, why is this falling apart? Well,
Yeah.
we went and found out that one of the largest fires
Yep.
in Roswell history was in that building.
Yep.
And it had actually burned out the entire roof of the building.
It
And
did.
so when they put it all back together, it wasn't tied in like normal. And so that's part of how we got to the
That's right.
post design
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep.
Yep.
And then looking back, what was even more amazing was that after we had built the building and the build out was done, came across some of the photos I got with the fire department,
Right.
and they provided us some of the old photos. It was insane. Structurally, the same beam type foundation that we put in there, unbeknownst to us, was what was there before. And so we actually built it back to
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
without any knowledge.
Yeah.
What year was that fire? That was like 78.
76 or something? Yeah, 78, something like that.
76, I believe.
It's amazing how far fire protection for
Oh, yeah. You
for
think
the
they-
employees have come because these firefighters are in white T-shirts with a helmet on.
Right.
just
Yeah,
like
right.
squirting stuff over.
Yeah, and people forget the reason that it was because it was it's called the artillery room is because that was a
Right.
gun shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the explosion in there and the
With the fire.
heat intensity.
I'll tell
again,
you, it was when we were doing the demo again, like idiots. We were doing a lot of it ourselves, and
Yeah.
we're ripping some of the sheetrock out. And you're seeing where the framing is on the floor, and we're finding like birdshot, buckshot,
no
crazy.
that had exploded that would stuck in there in the wall and like just laying on the floor. And we're
Yeah.
like, this is crazy. Like this is
Well, it
This
is
is history.
beautiful. I mean, it's
Yeah,
you
y'all did a
exposed
great
brick. The
job.
beam work is insane. The bar is beautiful. I mean, it really has a cool ambient. It's
great
You open
addition.
up the garage door to Canton Street on a nice day. You
Yeah.
can go out the back.
Beautiful.
Upstairs is fantastic.
Yeah.
I know you do private events up there as well, so plenty of room to spread out. And I want to make sure we get a plug in for Blended as well.
Yeah, talk
The
to us
newest
about
venture,
Blended,
yeah.
Oak Street, so a little bit.
That's a lot of
different,
fun
but we
over
love
there.
Oak Street.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with that. This new venture we're working on. It's actually been around for a little while, but we've really come in over the last little bit and scaled it up. So Blended Family Spirits is a fine liqueur brand. So we have 5 different products. We have a triple sec, we have a peach liqueur, we have a raspberry liqueur, a blueberry liqueur, and we just dropped an espresso martini.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, nice.
All really, really great products created by our partner Scott Mayer,
Right.
who's also a local guy, grew up around here, and kind of was a longtime bartender and industry professional. And he created these products actually about 5 years ago. And that business is really built on the distribution model. So
Yeah. Yep.
it's up until just recently, everything was going out to the market and sold in the market. It has grown fast. Right now, we're currently in 8 states. And we're on a couple of the big cruise lines. So we're on every
I
Carnival
didn't know
cruise
that.
ship.
Every Carnival.
Every Disney cruise ship and every
Yeah.
Margaritaville cruise
Right
ship.
here in
Yes.
Roswell.
Coming
Right
right,
out of
out of
Roswell,
Roswell.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. So Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri,
Kentucky,
and California.
Right.
And then the major cruise
Isn't that
ships.
cool?
So
Yeah,
it's hard to believe, but we're sending almost 600 cases a month out of our small location
Yeah.
over there.
Insane.
All made right here, going all over the country. So one of the things that when I got into it, I knew that this was such a cool story that almost nobody in Roswell knew was going on. And it fit right into what we do best,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
One, it's manufacturing. We wanted to tell the story to Roswell and allow Roswell to come in and see what a cool brand was doing here that most people didn't know about. So over the last year, built out a small tasting room over there where we're able to feature those products. The cool part about those products is that they blend well with our products over at the artillery room and the brewery.
Right.
So we are able
works
to
together.
take Blended Family, take it over to the artillery room. We're able to take our bourbon and vodka and gin and take it over there. And so essentially we've now created a portfolio where we can work together and use products from our companies to create another cool environment for the city over off Oak Street.
Love it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's been really great, and we're working on some really exciting stuff for this this summer coming up.
I figured.
With a bunch of the local companies over there. Oak
Good.
Street
Yeah.
is such a cool street. It's
getting ready to pop.
There
It
are
is.
some
Yep.
really great people over there, great businesses, and we're just having a blast, kind of taking it back, a little bit. It reminds me of kind of when we started the tap room over here. It's a little bit of
brand
hustle, a little
new
bit
adventure.
of scrap.
something fun to tinker with.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes back to you guys being local. You're raising your family here. You're coaching baseball. You're active in all kinds of things, both of you, and you're both still in Rotary. And you know what? Here's the thing: you guys are community. That's what it's about, right? That's why I get up every morning. Andy gets up every morning. We get excited about hearing your story because it's great. Our job is really to tell the story of Roswell, whether it's the business side or the tourism side,
Right.
and tie that all together. And it's real easy when you got people as excited and motivated as you two
right.
are.
It's one of the most the most proud things about this entire venture is that when we came up with the business plan, the community was always either the first or second point. And the fact that we've been able to accomplish that and get it to where it is and
Amazing.
get just how the community's embraced us, I mean, it really makes me the most proud. Just this is where we live, and it's fantastic.
It's really wild. I mean, I get asked a lot, like, did you ever imagine it would get to this? And the honest answer is no.
Yeah, right.
No, not even close.
We were sitting across. I love this story. We were sitting around my dining room table working on the business plan, and we're trying to figure out, okay, when we open a tap room, how many people can we anticipate coming in? And we're like, Pat's like, I don't know, maybe 50 a week. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's put down the 50. Pat goes home and talks to his wife, and she's like, you think 50 people are really going to come see you? And we're like, we don't know.
That's too many.
Yeah, that's too many.
It was a hard one.
I can see her
And
going.
we're like, well, I don't know. What are we supposed to? What do you think's going to happen here? And so when it turns into 50 in a 2-hour period,
Right.
you're
Yeah,
like,
right,
oh, well,
right.
this is awesome.
And if you've been to Gate City on any special event, any nice weather day,
do it right.
gosh, on a rainy day, people are in the tap room. There are people everywhere.
There is.
You do the cornhole leagues. You've got that awesome stage back there now. Do bands. You guys had Kilo, for crying out loud. That was insane. But I also want to give you guys a plug too, because we've got the Mobile Visitor Center,
Yep.
Gate City, through their connections and their relationships. They were the wrap sponsor.
That's
they
right.
got the thing wrapped.
They got
for
it
us.
going.
That's no small expense, and so
No.
we appreciate you guys for
Absolutely.
that. Very successful, but we couldn't do those things without the type of support we get
right.
from partners like y'all. So it means a lot.
Well, thank you, and we're happy to do that. I mean, the thing, like Brian said, is this community has been so supportive from day one. We pride ourselves on bringing people together for fellowship, over a beer, over a cocktail, over a mocktail, whatever it may be. We want to provide a space that's welcoming and that brings people together.
Right.
And the support from you guys have never wavered in your support for us. And it's just been amazing to be a part of such a great community that stands behind their entrepreneurs.
That's right.
Yes.
Roswell is special in that. You meet a lot of the business owners and the people who have really risked it all to kind of go out there and start a business, and they're really special people.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be surrounded by people who appreciate what you've done, and who want to come and support you. I mean, it's a special thing.
We're just going to wrap that comment up and put a bow on it.
Absolutely.
That was about as good as it gets.
Brian, Pat, here's to the next 10 years.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Thanks for all y'all
guys.
do, too.
Thank
We
you, guys.
appreciate
Thank you
y'all.
guys
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
on.
Thank you.